Hi guys, so this is where I left off the other day where I was setting up the joystick and everything, and I'm super happy with the 8-bit DO keyboard, 8-bit do. So I just want to load up the joystick file that I showed the other day and kind of explain how all this works. So this is just where I store the variable, it's C000, and the variable is called UV input. When you make up a new variable, you say something like new byte and you give it a name, and that will obviously be called UV underscore and the name that it is. Alright, that's that. Just notice the box was in front of it for whatever reason. Right. So that's the variable. Now in the code block itself, you can use that variable, but you have to make sure you use the UV underscore, just so that it knows it's a user variable. Right, and it does that for all variables. It's just so there's no mix up between hardware variables in case you somehow called it the same thing. This bit of code, you can see, you press F12 to change the font in the code editor, so this one's much clearer, and this is basically just whatever's stored in that variable is putting it to the background, and then this is a little VWait script just put here for convenience. That's what I was doing in the time lapse. The joystick macro here gives you access to every direction you need, even though you don't have to have them all. You might have a simple game where it's just up, down, left, right and fire, but I've enabled them all because I just wanted to show this working fully. So what happens is it will read through these. If any of them trigger, it will go and do the thing. If they don't, it's going to set that value, that UV input, to 0. So this is just a simple instruction where it's loading the accumulator with that variable, then storing it into it's storing that value into the accumulator. It's looking up the value, storing it. It's very simple, and then it's jumping back to check joy, right, which is up here. Now something I like to do is press tab if you've got a loop like that. I might try and automate this between the address and the label. It comes tricky if you've got nested loops, but I think it should be alright. So you can do something like that. You can see I've kind of done it here between those. Here's another one, so fire. Right. So the first thing it's going to do is, it's basically, it doesn't matter how you arrange these. These OR blocks just basically continue the code. You can see this ends at 08F7 and this starts at 08F7. So wherever this ends is where this starts, and that's done through this little proxy sensor. If you see, I can move this around. You can see the sensor area. It's looking for a spine the closest spine to it within that area, and it will sense its end position and it will set that as the start. So the code just continues, because you can imagine trying to code all the way down and it being a whole lot of wasted space. This made sense to me, and something that I might even do as well is have layers, like actual Z code, where if you zoom out and you go past this point, it would actually come in with a new layer, and you can code in X, Y, and Z as well. It's a bit nuts of an idea, but it sort of crossed my mind yesterday. I was like, oh, I could do that. That might be good, but at the end of the day, I would probably just have tabs for that. Zoom out, zoom out, zoom out. Like, you don't know where you are. I would probably just have tabs for different code blocks. I mean, you can do it with the space bar anyway to take you to different parts, and that's already good enough. So you're kind of working in your whole 2D space, and if you're way down here doing some sort of logic for some other level, it's fine. You can easily get back to where you are, right? So that is what that does. It's calling all these little loops here. So up stores 7. It sets that value to 7. Basically, the only thing it's doing the work is this. It's injecting the value into the border and background, and then doing a wait. Right? That's all this is doing. It's inject color. Right? That's what it's called. And these are just setting that variable, which is the sort of simpler way to do it. This is all springboard branches, if I remember right. They do little comparisons and then they branch. Sorry, they compare, then they branch to a local jump, and then they jump to an area. So you need to use jumps to go back, um, instead of like being a branch or a subroutine like a GSR type of effect in an RTS. I just jump around. It works. It's still just as fast to me. If you're some sort of hardcore demo scene coder, you'll look at this and say that's not efficient. But anyway, I don't really, I don't really think it has any knock-on effect compared to basic, at least anyway. Which most people coming into this might be like, okay, I only know basic, and I want to get into machine code. That's the whole point. You can press the I key or this button here, and it will toggle the all this extra information about cycles and stuff. This cycle count here is the complete cycle count as you go down the screen, and it's something like 19,000 before you get to the bottom, right? So it's going to add up. Like you're only at 400 cycles here, so it's only like taking up a bit of the raster time, is what they would call it, worth of. As it draws the screen, it's doing the code, right? It's both happening at the same time. The VIC chip handles the screen, and the CPU is handling the code, and they all kind of work together. So if I kick this up now with F5, it does this fancy effect, right? I just added that in. You will now see up, diagonal, top right, right, down, down left, left, top left, and then with fire is up, fire on its own, and up, and top right, and right. I'm kind of struggling here. Alright, and bottom right, and down, bottom left, left, and top left. Right, button on and off for each. So that is everything, every angle working. Right, and that was what I meant to show in the video, but I just time lapsed right past it. There was a bit of the editing where I basically was talking about this, but then I wanted to make something redundant in this. There used to be a fallback here, and it was giving me a bit of a headache because it just didn't make sense when I first designed this. I thought that you needed to call like a nothing sort of phase, but you just let it slip through, right, and it just hits that. And then I had a bit of a problem wondering where to put the V wait. Just put it here, so it waits until the screen is drawn, then checks the joystick, and it's literally at the top of the screen at that point, so it's ready to get that information again, and that all kept it really stable. So that was that. You've probably seen some cool effects happen there. There's a couple of new effects that I've just added. When you press F5, it will scan. It doesn't scan anything, it's just an effect whilst it's booting up Vice. It doesn't cost any extra to do it, it's just doing it in the background because there's a little alarm that means that there's just enough time for it to do everything it needs to do before it needs to open Vice. And it's like some internal compiling that it does, but it doesn't take long. And I've got that alarm set to like 3 seconds just to give it lots of time. If there's problems later where Vice isn't kicking in, then I'll have to increase that amount to cope with bigger projects, or I'll make it dynamic if the project is big and it needs more time to compile. I don't really know that figure yet, but it seems to be fast anyway. It's injecting the full amount of RAM's worth of stuff, so I reckon once you've got assets and everything there and all that needs to compile into a buffer file and the alarm kicks up Vice and the program's not ready, there might be a problem there. So these are things that I'll probably hit further down the line as I start to make a game with this. So the big question is, okay, yeah, the new effect is basically if you add a node, it does a cool effect like that, right? And you can kind of go crazy with it and click just a bunch of them. They have to be they all did it there, right? I don't know why sometimes they all do it. There's just some, yeah, I'm just clicking and they're doing it. Is that a bug? I don't know. But anyway, it was just a silly little effect that I added in, and it needs a little bit of polish to it. Um, but I thought it was quite cool just to do that, and I just noticed that it does it when I drag copy and then click. Something's not resetting, but it's interesting just to see it. It doesn't have a big performance cost really. Let me just see what it's doing if I undo and then click. Okay, it did drop a good bit. Right, I'll just need to do a little check of why it's doing that, because it only should be doing it if I've stopped dragging and then a node has became connected. It should only do it locally, but it was quite interesting to see it do it all over the place there. So that's just a couple of effects that I've added for the sake of it, right? It just does. There's a bit of an error there, but that line was red. Don't know what that is. There's a red line. I think that the alpha's not getting clamped. Anyway, so that's the joystick macro, and you're probably wondering, right, Rob, how do I get a sprite in, and how do I make it move, and all that stuff? That's another tutorial anyway. But just to give you the gist of it is you make a sprite asset, right? You just do edit, right? You don't have to load all the time. You can do edit, and I'll just make a silly little sprite like this, right? And then escape to come out that. There it is. You can set it to multicolor or whatever, and we would need to set up this sprite. So you get a sprite asset here, and you're going to do that before you get into this loop. So anything before the core game loop, like assets, setting them up and stuff, is done up here, right? So that's the sprite setup. It will show automatically. It will switch the Vic bank, auto bank switch, but with bitmap it expects Vic back 1. So what I do is I make the sprites go into 6800 by default, and that way the pointers are correct. There's the pointer label there, there's where the sprite data is going to be, and you can get 80 sprites fitted in that section, and you can get a bitmap in here, right? The sprite pointer sort of sits inside the color RAM transfer section of the bitmap, right? When you load in the bitmap, there's a bit at the end that gets transferred to D800, which is the color RAM, and then it sort of gets somewhat freed up, right, or whatever. But there's a little sprite pointer sitting in there, 3F. You said it tells you up here, 63F8, right? You can't change that. You can just change the. Oh no! Tell me that's broken. Every time I do a video, right? That seems to be broken. This you can change, but for some reason this you cannot. Right? That needs fixed as soon as possible. And this is what happens with every video: is that I always find a bug, which is good, right? I need to update that. That's kind of because this did get changed, and that is annoying. I mean, you can set this. You can hard set the sprite yourself by doing a LDA, and this is, I suppose it teaches you something, right? An LDA A1 into 63F9. So if I do an STA, the shortcut keys is L and S there, to 63. Okay, you know why I'm so stupid? Sometimes I don't get myself. There's only one sprite. Right, it's not a bug. It's not a bug, right? I'm stressing out. It's not a bug at all. It's because there's only one sprite, right? And that way, there you go. Right, you set it like that, right? But what I was doing there, you saw me change that. You would handle that with an animation node. I'll sort this so that they sort of are grouped better, because animation's down there and sprites way up there. I'll sort that later. Right, animation happens in a loop, if I remember right, or is it? No, it's a JSR. It's handled with a JSR, right? So you set it up initially, anything like that, you set it up in the init node, and I would just make up like my loop. So 0, I could do 0, 0, 1, and that would be my loop. So it would be down more, then up. Sometimes it flashes, you just need to click. It's just the addresses don't update until you do something. And because what I found was, if it was always checking addresses, it had a performance hit. So it only checks on like clicks and stuff. So I'll refine that so it's a bit better. It's still a wee bit rough, but it's not broken. Things just flash because they've not updated their addresses when you add something. Right, so that's slot 0, that should be. Okay, again, just do that. 0, 0, 1, it's going to be looping, and in order for that to animate, I need to do this call. So I can do a JSR and do a lookup, and it's already in the list, right? It's just a generic number that's made based on this node's ID, which is that. You'll see if I was to clone this node, it would get a different ID, right? You only need one, essentially. You know, you're animating your rate sprites, you can reconfigure it. Yeah, you can reconfigure it later, I think, but it would have to be like a one-off call. You'd have to do like a, set it up once. But I've not really stress tested it, but that would now go into here, I guess, and it's not a jump, it's a JSR, so just make sure you press J on that to change it to a JSR. So J gives you a jump, but if you press J on it, it gives you the JSR. You can obviously use the table here. These were just shortcuts that I wanted to make, so you can do it that way, right? It just doesn't say call there, it's just a little biggest thing because the way I'd set up the shortcut key. Right, so that will now, if I press F5, I should see a sprite, and it should animate. Oh, stuck in warp mode. Alright. It's not actually animating, so I'm wondering if it needs to be after this because of the V-weight. Okay, time to debug that. So that should be offsets of it needs to be of A0, right? It's offsets based on the base one. There's little subtle things that I'll need to put in the documentation. Still not doing it though. Okay, comma separated. I wonder if I need to have $. If I've coded it that way, let's put some. Okay, we get a bit of breakage. So yeah, I obviously need to fix that, and that now will crash. Right, so I need to fix a couple of things why that's not animating. Let's hope it's auto saved. I don't know if it gave it enough time. So the autosave is set to 10 minutes here. I'm going to set that to 5 minutes, and then yeah, we need to put the sprite back in again. So that kind of sucked. I lost a lot of work there because 10 minutes is too much. I'll change that as well. I guess that kind of wraps us up. Obviously I've got something to fix now, which is annoying because every time I think I've got everything perfect, and then I go and do a video like this, I find another bug. It's just because I've not really got that far yet. Things get started, and then when you start to mix things with other things, they break, and it's just the way it goes with coding. Now, so close to this version 1, it's version 9.99.2 point something. Internally there's all these little kind of changes. Every time I make a change, I change the version, obviously, because I need to jump back to certain ones. And I've just finished the IRQ and IRQ shell. These are extra features that are in the full version, and now I got my work cut out for me, so I'll catch you when this is done. But hopefully that gives you a bit of insight where I'm at with things. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you later. Bye.